Hello everybody! In this video presentation, I am going to show you a new variation on how you can paint a 135 scale head using 𝘀𝗴𝗹𝗶𝗀𝗃 Painting Skin Tones Made Easy set developed by me in collaboration with 𝘀𝗂𝗯𝗁 Interactive. I will demonstrate how these specialized tones can enable you to elevate your work by making the complex simple. So, without further ado, let's begin. Gentlemen, in this video, I am going to show you how to paint a 135 scale head. Right. Okay, so first up, we're going to prime the head now with 𝘀𝗂𝗯𝗁 matte varnish. This is a lacquer based paint that I'm using. Now, the color is a bit gone gray because I've added some gray pigment paint in it. This will help me with a bit of the pre-shading. Is to create a porous surface for the paint to adhere. So I'm removing some of the excesses, especially around the areas where the crevices are. This is what we want. This is beautiful. That's what we essentially want and need for our base. Now the frosting means as it starts to frost, the matte varnish as it starts to frost, it's going to provide us with a porous surface, as I said, for the paint to adhere. I'm going to create a mixture of human flesh and crimson red, approximately about 1 part crimson red to about maybe 4 to 5 parts of human flesh. Now this is the 𝘀𝗂𝗯𝗁 Quick Gen color. Just a reminder, I'm going to thin it with the 𝘀𝗂𝗯𝗁 thinner. You can see where the places are. This is the deposits of the matte varnish. I'm going to just apply the wash there. Now what this does is it's going to stain the head. You can see it's going to stain the varnish. It's you have to exercise a bit more caution, control when it comes to paint, so we do not want to build up too much paint. Now you can see this system works beautifully because we are minimizing the build-up of paint. I am going to use light flesh. I'm going to thin it with a bit of the 𝘀𝗂𝗯𝗁 Ultra Matte Varnish to make the paint more translucent, as well as to reduce the appearance of watermarks. Stepping here where the highlights are. Okay, so these are the crucial critical areas where the highlights are going to be, and I'm just going to push these stones towards where the highlights will gather. This is the upper part of the mouth. Okay, and then the chin here. Right, now this is this technically is the base color. So waiting for the first layer to dry before applying the second layer of paint. Okay, you can see it dries really nicely. No watermarks whatsoever. So moving here, you can see how I'm sort of pushing, letting the concentration of color or rather paint build up. So we're still using light flash. We're building up, gradually building up layers, and that's the nature of this method. You can see the handiwork right now, what we're doing here. So now I'm going to apply an intermediate tone between this light flash and this wash. So what I've done is I've added a 50-50 mix of human flesh and light flesh. So this is a darker tone there.
And I'm going to use this to cover this area here, right, to mediate the highlight. So you can see this is the intermediate color that goes in between the light flash as well as the first shadow color that we applied. So you can see we're softening that boundary here. Just the middle here, you can see I'm mediating this part here. Sweeping it downwards towards the jawline. Sweeping the paint towards the sides. Cheekbone there. Been spilling into the mouth there. Right, we can fix those later. Not a problem at all. Okay, so how do we fix that? Well, easy. Very easy. Now you use a smaller brush, a liner brush. I'm going to add a bit of the human flesh now. And this time with a greater proportion of red. It's a very reddish tone. Probably about 3 parts human flesh to 1 part crimson. Okay, and I'm just going to just dab it on. Now I've gone silent here as I'm controlling my breathing. I'm going very slow. Let's spill a bit onto the nose, but not to worry. Stick some thinner and just move it away. Next up, I'm going to work with light flash. Again, going in with a bit of light flash one more time. Build up a bit more opacity. This time I'm using a much thinner brush. Bit on the cheekbone there. I'm using this for the shadows here. Okay, jawline specifically. On the hairline here. I'm using that mid-tone color again, coming in with a mid-tone color again that we earlier with the mixture of light flesh and the human flesh. Before the highlights, we are going to use basic skin tone here, and we're going to tint it with a bit of the ultra matte varnish. Highlight again, pinpoint highlights, chin, okay, so you can see there where the highlights are placed. Here we are going to use ultra matte varnish mixed with a bit of the acrylic thinner and human flesh. And I'm just going to just focus and just place the dark tone into the shadow areas here. So you can see I've just mediated the shadows, the boundaries right about here. Give some highlight to the ear. Okay. So for the extreme highlights, I'm going to prepare a 1:1 50/50 mix of the ultra matte varnish with ivory. Now this is going to give us a very translucent white that's going to help us establish the color for the extreme highlights. underneath the brow, that's where the eye cover fold is. Sweep this tone down with a bit of the 50-50 mixture of human flesh and crimson red. Okay, showing beautifully, right? So using dark flesh, this is a very dark brown, dark reddish brown. I'm going to mix it with a bit of the ultra matte varnish to improve the flow and to tint its opacity. On the eyes, going in at a 90-degree angle, you can see the paint flow is actually very thick. Don't need a very thick brush. I'm using a very thick brush here and just dotting the eyes. Okay, and maybe I'll just do a bit of the whites first using light flash. Dotting. Okay, so now we're going to just deepen the shadows, just a bit more dark flesh. I'm going to introduce another color, which is outside of the flesh tone, and this color is actually winter gray, so it's not so conspicuous when you talk about getting that sort of 5 o'clock shadow. I may want to use a bit of the flesh highlight, a light flesh, and a bit of the winter gray. Now using a bit of the dark flesh. So we can sort of reinforce a bit of the shadows now, using a dark flesh and a bit of crimson. The shadows on the eyes there, beneath the eyes, the brows.
I hope you guys enjoyed the video. In closing, mastering 135 scale skin tones should be a journey of refinement and not a struggle against your materials. The Painting Skin Tone Made Easy system is my contribution to this shared evolution. I invite you to trust in these refinements and let go of the rigid methods of the past. In scale modeling, as in life, the smallest adjustments often lead to the greatest transformations. Thank you for watching, and remember to keep refining your craft.